In a sleepy neighborhood of Bassett, Virginia, gunshots in the dead of night. What happened here haunts Lieutenant Curtis Spence of the Henry County Sheriff's Department.
When I got there, I found the back garage door open. A ranch-style house, normal for the area that we live in.
Lieutenant Spence knows the folks who live here, Mike and Mary Short.
The garage door was open, and I found Mike Short laying on a couch.
With a bullet in his head.
It was obvious to me that Mike had been shot in the head, pretty much in the forehead, with a small caliber weapon. There was not a lot of blood spatter there with Mike. And it appeared that he never woke up and never knew what happened to him.
It gets worse.
As I went further into the house, I found Mary Short in her bed. She was fully dressed, and she was partially under the blankets on the bed. It didn't look like she had struggled at all. She had been shot in the back of the head, and what little bit of blood it was just right there on her pillow.
Spence knows Mike and Mary have a 9-year-old daughter, Jennifer. She's not there.
The only thing that was out of place as I continued down the hall toward the back of the house was Jennifer's room. Her mattress was moved just slightly. The sheet was messed up and the pillow was laying in the floor. That is the only thing that I found out of place in the whole house.
2 dead adults, 1 missing child. This simply doesn't happen around here.
This was one of the largest crimes that had ever happened in Henry County, and still to this day, it's one of the largest crimes that happened in my career.
Spence knows it's too late to help Mike and Mary Short, but there is an urgency here. Find the girl.
The unknown was, where is Jennifer at? So a very big effort was made by police officers from all around the region, search and rescue groups, volunteers coming in, and we would plot and map the area, and we searched for miles, checking to see if she had either run away from what had taken place inside the residence, or if she was a victim and taken just a short distance away from the home.
Lane Perry, the sheriff of Wayne County, dug into the search. Early on, there was a whiff of optimism in the air.
The effort was, hopefully we were going to find her alive. Hopefully it was just a situation where when this heinous act started happening, she had just run out and run into the woods or something. And so we were very much trying to find her alive.
Days pass. Mike and Mary are buried, and the search for the killer and little Jennifer drags on. The reward grows to $100,000. The number of searchers grows as well.
Everyone offered assistance. Every adjoining agency to our jurisdiction and other jurisdictions sent in investigators and personnel to help with the investigation and help for the search. Also, almost every state and federal agency sent in investigators and people to help with this crime.
Investigators come up with a person of interest, a guy named Chris Thompson, who'd worked for Mike. He had been with Mike the night before and found the bodies.
But normally what happens on something like that, the last one to see him and the first one to find him is our bad guy. So of course we looked heavily at Chris Thompson as a person of interest in this case, simply because of the way we normally handle an investigation.
But the Thompson angle goes nowhere. Spence works the scene even harder.
Basically, I lived in the Short house for 3 weeks along with several forensic technicians. The evidence left behind was nil. I don't know whether the perpetrator of this crime was just that good or whether he was just lucky.
At one point, cops cover the window with black plastic bags and go over the place with luminol, a spray cops often use to illuminate fingerprints and blood spatter. That turns up nothing. But Spence has a bright and clear sense of the killer.
With the close-range shots that both Mary and Mike sustained, it's been mentioned that it may have been execution style. I don't know whether I would call it an execution style killing, but this person was a very cold human being to be able to shoot 2 people in the head as they slept.
Police were mystified with this case. 2 dead adults, a missing child, and no clue as to why. Could Mike and Mary have been involved in something that brought this violence on them? Drugs, debt, gambling, an affair, anything at all. But every place that police looked led them to the same conclusion. This was a loving family with no known enemies.
There was nothing to indicate a bad lifestyle or to show any link why this act of violence would have been brought on them.
Investigators even went so far as to disinter Mike's remains after hearing chatter that he might not be Jennifer's dad. DNA testing made clear that he definitely was. Then, more than a month after the murders, little Jennifer is found miles away from her house. The small town of Bassett, Virginia is shattered by the shocking murders of Mike and Mary Short, both shot dead. A bullet to the head while they were sleeping.
There was no signs of any struggle whatsoever that we could find.
Chief Investigator Lieutenant Curtis Spence says the couple didn't have an enemy in the world. But they did have a beautiful 9-year-old daughter, Jennifer, who disappeared that terrible night. Her mom and dad were murdered. Lieutenant Spence went on a desperate hunt to find her, and the entire community pitched in to help, hoping to bring her home.
We had search and rescue teams from all over. We had federal authorities, state authorities. There were several hundred officers that responded to the scene quickly, including multiple forensic teams that came in and helped us do the crime scene and the house. And of course, at the time, we hoped that Jennifer was alive.
But on September 25th, 41 days after the killings and little Jennifer's disappearance, the flame of hope flickers and then goes out. Scattered remains of a little girl are found in a field near a pond. It's Jennifer.
This is the exact spot that we found Jennifer. It appears that she was just thrown over the bridge. We found Jennifer's bones in the pasture next to the pond, through the woods here. We collected her body for about 3 days. And I can remember carrying that child in a paper bag to the medical examiner's office.
The ME confirms the remains in that paper bag are what's left of this beautiful little girl. She too had been shot in the head, just like her parents.
We actually found out just minutes before, maybe seconds before it came on TV. It didn't feel real, and you have hope until that moment.
Tessie Mitchell was Jennifer's best friend growing up. It's been 13 years, but she still feels the pain.
The only thing you can even hope for is that whoever done this is caught.
Finding the body in that location actually led police to another person of interest, a guy named Gary Bowman, and he looked good for 2 reasons. He lived about a mile from where the remains were found, and he left the country 1 day after the murders, destination Canada, but he wasn't there to stay.
I must order your deportation from Canada, therefore. Do you understand that?
I do.
Turns out he had entered Canada without declaring an old DUI conviction, and that was enough to get him kicked out.
Do you plan to appeal the decision?
No. The decision is just, I'm guilty due to my own damn stupid.
Spence and his team look hard at Bowman, but again, they come up empty.
As far as Garrison Bowman goes, we never had any actual proof of any wrongdoing on his behalf. Garrison Bowman died of natural causes and was found Christmas of 2014.
So here we are today, 13 years after the murders. No suspects, no leads. The trail has gone cold. But Lane flat out refuses to call it a cold case. And this is now a Crime Watch Daily call to action to help catch a cold-blooded killer.
We remain very committed to solve this crime. We go back over the evidence occasionally. It's been tested. Every time advancements in DNA come along, the evidence is retested to see if it can generate a new lead.
For Lieutenant Curtis Spence, this is not just an unsolved case. It's personal.
I purchased a button with Jennifer's picture on it, and I've carried that button in my car through several police cars. That button rides on the sun visor of my car. I see it every day.